The Walsh Bay Wharves precinct sits at the northernmost point of the Sydney CBD, at the foot of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Despite its broad locational attributes, access to the area is convoluted and difficult, resulting in the area remaining somewhat hidden and detached from the city centre. Pedestrian access to the site is primarily via movements from Circular Quay train station, heading north around the Rocks area. The experience along this route, in some instances, provides a significant physical barrier to the accessibility of the site, limiting permeability through the area. The location of the overseas terminal presents a looming back-of-house character to the street, signifying an endpoint to the pedestrian experience around the quay. Given this limitation, accessibility to the area is hindered through an inability for the pedestrian to identify the site as a key nodal destination beyond this terminal. Arrival in the area is relatively nondescript and understated, with no defined identification that the pedestrian is entering an area of significance. With the exception of some small food retailing, the pedestrian experience along this entry presents as stark and uninspiring, with no physical connection through to the primary redevelopment area further south. Similarly, along Hickson Road, the development fails to provide for any clear permeability or relationship to the wharf buildings within the precinct. While viewpoints through the bay do exist from this roadway, they are generally occupied by vehicle access points or back-of-house servicing. Activities are primarily limited to fishing, with fishermen generally being excluded from the primary development area. Arrival into the primary redevelopment area from the north does provide for a clear sense of address and grandeur when accessed internally. Spill-out dining, retailing and commercial tenancies provide the bones of an area suitable for an enhanced pedestrian activity. Notwithstanding this, the significant provision of residential land uses, coupled with the limited provision of anchor commercial tenancies, limits the extended activation of the space outside of the weekend period. While the activation of the ground floor is commendable, the relationship and connection of the historical fabric is lost through the broad redevelopment of the area. The provision of gated, luxury apartment typologies, supported with high-end dining and retailing opportunities, juxtaposes the working class history of the site. The laminating of apartment pier, with a combination of unsympathetic materials, detaches the building from its setting, resulting in a development devoid of context, further accentuated through its blank wall presentation to the internal street. The compositional arrangement of the internal facades of the Hickson Road buildings also detach the development from its context. The extrusion of the balcony forms beyond the original wing walls results in a compositionally awkward presentation internally. This, coupled with the curvilinear arrangement of the Hickson Road buildings, results in the primary experience of the area being of the new development. The retention of the existing heritage fabric is sporadic and tokenistic. While some artefacts have been maintained, they are generally located within back-of-house areas, having no distinct connection to the surrounding environment. The retention of the hoisting system adjacent piers 8 and 9 is commendable, yet provides no connection to the immediate surrounding, adjacent an access stair to the residential component. Similarly, the erosion of the building form adjacent piers 6 and 7 to create a structural void, referencing the previous location of a hoisting system, results in a physical disconnect of the piers from the primary building form, emphasising the disparity between the buildings and a detachment of the redevelopment from its historical setting. The materiality presents a distinct contrast to the common hardwood, brick and galvanised iron materials typically found within the area. The colour palette of bright primary colours juxtaposed against aluminium cladding results in a clear disconnect from the heritage fabric and accentuates the presence of new forms within the old setting.